Hello, Molly here, your host for the Say It Skillfully podcast, featuring entrepreneurs, CEOs, elite athletes, artists, and professionals like you who open up about what's been hard, defining moments and learnings and finding their true north and succeeding on their terms. A reminder, the views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any employer, organization, or other group. When everyone thinks you have it all at work, that you're crushing it, but you don't feel this, it takes courage to walk away. And my inspiring guest did just that. Many say that business is not about profit at the expense of everything else. For my guest, well, his actions have done the talking. Most of his career has been at Caterpillar, where he progressed up the ranks to run a billion-dollar business and was on track to the senior executive levels. Then he had a hit by a lightning bolt moment and abruptly let it all go with no plan B. And he'll take you through how he found his way to a family-owned manufacturing enterprise founded in 1898 and his intention for capitalism to serve the whole of society. And I am so joyous that the president and CEO of Etnyre International Limited, Ganesh Iyer, is joining us. Ganesh, welcome to Say It Skillfully.
Thank you very much, and I'm honored to be here.
I am more honored, and we were talking in the beginning a bit. I have to shower you with some praise because I have worked with some truly world-class, amazing leaders, and having heard about you and then met you, you have really impressed me and many others with how you lead, Ganesh. It's a wonder. And by the way, for folks listening, we met through Essential Ingredients, Cathedral Holdings, a board we're both on. So I want to shout out to Chris Maynard and Justin Jordan in particular. So we are crossing paths.
Thank you.
Yeah, your humility is pretty overwhelming. So I have to say, I appreciate for that.
Thank you so much.
The putting people first is something that is a mutual common cause for all the board members. And before we get into your journey, I'm just curious, a few words from you, Ganesh, on what that means to you.
Yeah, I think it means a lot to me. In terms of people first, it's easy to say sometimes in this world and harder to actually follow. In my heart of hearts, in my conscience, I know uh, our whole human existence is around people and it's about people. Yet, I think in the daily rat race, we tend to forget them, and we keep saying, people are the biggest asset in any business. I feel that they are the they are the real asset in any business, not just the biggest asset. So the fact that we have to even call it out that they are the biggest asset tells me something more. Um, so yes, people first is extremely important, and I feel that uh, I, I'm just on. I just feel that I get my energy from people. I hope I give energy to people, positive energy to people, and just it's amazing. I wouldn't know what to do without people. So here I am.
Well, it's abundantly apparent. And for folks who might think about this, people putting people first versus profits, we want you to know that Ganesh has grown profits considerably for the company while putting people first, including raising wages for shop floor employees by 40%. And so I think his experience and results will show you that when you really do put people first, a lot of great things happen after. Ganesh, you have a remarkable journey that I know, and I know that you're not someone to talk a lot about yourself. So I just want to acknowledge you for being willing to do that with us today. But I want people to get to know you. So please take us to, back in your childhood days and how this all started.
Well, again, thank you so much, and I'm just honored and really appreciate the opportunity to tell my story. Although I'm not that comfortable always talking about myself, that's always a difficult thing to do for most people, as it is for me. I grew up in a pretty humble environment in India, and I grew up. My childhood has really uh, made me who I am today and the person I am today. I grew up um, in an environment. It was India. It's a predominantly Hindu country, uh, but I actually grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly Muslim dominated, so to speak. predominantly Muslims, and I went to a Roman Catholic school for most of my schooling, except the last 2 years of my high school. So I grew up in a very culturally incredibly diverse environment where I actually was in the minority, uh,
Mm.
in a in a country where I'm not the minority, so to speak. But that shaped me. I mean, and as a child, you don't have these biases. Somebody is a Christian, somebody is a Muslim. You never refer to them as that. You always refer to them as humans and people, and they're with their names. So that really shaped me who I am. It helped me improve. It helped me just have tolerance. It helped me have appreciation for everything that is different than me. They were very different. I mean, their cultural upbringing, the way the stuff they ate, everything was different. And the school I went to um, was very, very Roman Catholic, so to speak. But I thought that that was the best education I could have received in terms of the general subjects and all, but also the discipline, also the ability to be respectful to others and to be tolerant to others, and so on and so forth. So that really shaped me as to who I am. At the age of 22, after a degree in engineering, I decided to come to the States. And quite frankly, there was no bigger plan, as it wasn't a plan that I was going to come here, do something. I just thought that hey, it would be good for, I know US was good for higher education. And I knew quite a few friends from my own undergraduate institution who had come here. So I kind of followed suit. Um, and then when I got my doctoral degree and coming into Caterpillar was a transition because I did my doctoral degree in actually engineering, mechanical engineering, but a lot of my work was jet engine turbulence. And unfortunately, I couldn't find a job. At that time, the industry was a little bit down. Plus, at that time, I wasn't a U.S. citizen,
Mm.
which I am now. But so there were security clearance issues, and I couldn't find a job. So I reluctantly, quite frankly, ended up at Caterpillar because I needed a job. I needed to put food on the table. And I met my wife, by the way, at Penn State, which is where I graduated from, and I'm still very much in love with that school. It's a place near and dear to my heart. Not just the school, but the place where it was. It's located rather. And I met my wife as well, who was doing her doctoral degree, and so we eventually both of us moved to Peoria. She had a job elsewhere as well, but eventually life got us to Peoria, Illinois, where Caterpillar was headquartered. So um, and
Wow.
that's how my life began. But the key point is, I was shaped as an individual to be really respecting diversity from my childhood. I never saw it as diversity because you don't see that as a child, you just see that as another child. uh, but I think it's impressed me a fair bit through my life.
Yeah, it's amazing. You can come full circle now and appreciate it. Ganesh, do you recall yourself feeling like you fit in? Were people ever disrespecting to you?
In my childhood, it's a great question, Molly, because in my during my childhood, my father moved from the southern state of Tamil Nadu into the northern northwest state of Gujarat, and it's all very different. They're all very different cultures, especially at the time he moved, which was in the mid 50s, 1950s. And I was brought up there, and I kind of felt, yeah, no, there were times that I knew that I was growing up in a location that was not what I would call our native town. And so maybe, yes, there were comments made. And you talk about any differences, and humans tend to make those unfortunate comments. And so I had my share of comments as well made towards me. So um, by the time I grew up, I was very much thick-skinned about all of this, so to speak.
That's very good. Did you have siblings?
I did. I have an older brother who is about 7 years older. Yeah.
Yeah. And were your parents curious? Were they guiding you, or were they like, you got to get great grades? I'm just wondering to what extent they felt like they needed to nudge you, or are you just a self-driving machine?
No, no, I don't think so. I don't think I was driven. Clearly, I was self-driven, but I think, yeah, no, my parents had to guide me, make sure that I got good grades because, as I said, I grew up in a lower middle class environment. And the only way to put food on the table was to study and do well in school before, and get a job. I mean, that was the ultimate goal. So no, their guidance was extremely important, and my father probably shaped me more than anybody else in my life.
Yeah. What would you attribute most to your father?
Hard work, honesty, and also my father was an athlete. He was a sports fan, not just watching sports. He played a lot of sports. So I played a lot of sports during my school days, which actually teaches you about life. Playing sports is a good thing. It teaches you about life, and so I think, yes, his ability to do a lot of things at the same time impressed me. I still don't think I can do half of what he did in his life. But he always told me work hard, and he always told me to look forward. That I remember. He always said if I got a bad grade, he said move on. Just move on. It's okay. Focus on the future. And that I learned from him, to actually shrug off the past, learn from the past, but don't think too much about the past.
Well, those are wise words from a parent because sometimes parents can dwell in the past and even the present. I love that you love State College and Penn State is so fun to you. And I'm curious, it's a pretty big transition, far from family, whole new continent. Was it an easy snap in? How did you feel landing there?
I don't think it was very difficult. That's the first time I left home, but I was ready for it, and I also, I mean, I was homesick for the first semester or two. There were days when they were difficult, but the moment you make friends, and I tend to normally make friends quickly, and at least certainly acquaintances, if not deep friendships. And I did that, and I think so. I think that really helped. That really helped. And State College as a community was fantastic. It's a because Penn State is so huge there that you had people from all walks of life around the world. So you got to meet a lot of cultures, and I think that was the most exciting part of. I actually love diversity. That's what I realized because I grew up in a diverse environment. I actually love diversity because you do tend to learn a lot from people around you, what shapes them, how they behave, what they do, how they decide right from wrong, and all of that.
Yeah, it's really reinforcing the gift for young people when the difference is just there, and so there's no difference. And I have friends, and I grew up, I would say, in a very like there was one Chinese, one Black, one Korean family. That was it, right? And everyone else was white. And so it really does inform what you're used to. And I can see how for you, like people might talk about it. You're like, wait, I don't even know why we're talking about this because there's nothing to talk about. So Caterpillar, you
Mm.
figuring out corporate life, and obviously you figured it out because you were rising through the ranks. So talk to us about how you navigated the big corporate life.
Yeah, no. Again, I a lot of things have happened in my life without really planning for it. People plan a lot, and I tend not to plan too much. I plan somewhat, but then let life happen to me and go with the flow. So I've learned, and that's I think my father was like that too. Go with. He always used to say, just go with the flow. Don't just. That's how his advice was. Go with the flow. Don't worry about it. Just go with the flow. And I went with the flow. With Cat, I didn't want to work there. Remember, I mean, in the first place, I was looking for an aerospace company like a GE aircraft engine or Pratt and Whitney, but I couldn't find a job anywhere. So, but I started well at Cat. I think it was the technical side of it. I was at the R&D facility in Peoria, Caterpillar Technical Center for 5 years, and I really had a good time learning about CAD equipment, and a lot of my PhD work in terms of theory was applied to a different, not jet engines, but it was applied to CAD equipment. So I mean, it I fit in right there. That was not a problem. Um, but it was an amazing experience. Cat is an amazing company. It's a global icon. I mean, there is nobody close as to Caterpillar as far as earth moving, mining, just the whole portfolio, energy, everything goes. Cat is number one, and I am who I am today because of Caterpillar. no question about it. My learnings, the deep understanding of businesses, global businesses, has come from CAT, has come from the people of CAT. So navigating through Caterpillar was not that difficult. I felt. I think people were always kind. People were always willing to teach me if I didn't know something. Peoria, Illinois, if you know, it's a small town in Illinois, and it was just the right place to raise our kids as well. But yeah, coming from a CAT perspective, I think I really enjoyed the different business units that I was moved to in terms of experience. I started technically, then the management at that time felt that I could be potentially a good manager in the future. So they gave me different opportunities between Caterpillar Logistics Services, Caterpillar Remanufacturing, and then I was out of the United States with Caterpillar on expatriate assignments twice in Singapore, once in India, where I got experience related to strategy, running manufacturing plants, and then running larger global businesses,
Wow.
so to speak. So the experience I got is incredibly invaluable, and that really prepared me for who I am today. Over the so many years at CAT, I did feel that as you rose through the ranks, the pressure obviously on you start feeling the pressure a lot more in terms of numbers. You start feeling the concept of you start understanding the concept of total shareholder return, earnings per share, and quite frankly, the obsession with earnings per share. And I never realized that was. Something that bothered me till I actually looked, the last couple of years of my career at CAT, I felt that was the sole aim of public companies, let alone Caterpillar, but it's also not just Caterpillar. And let's be clear, it's not just Caterpillar, it's everyone. And all public companies have this concern. And I felt that making decisions only to maximize profit didn't sit well with me. And normally, when you maximize something, you tend to minimize something else, and you are doing it at the expense of something else. And I felt very, I didn't feel good about it. I couldn't have explained it when I left Caterpillar like this. I mean, 6 or 7 years ago, I just didn't know something. I just knew that something was not right
Mm.
about what I was going through. So I quit one fine day. I just quit. And then, of course, there were some incidents that triggered the quitting as well. It wasn't just quitting, but the it was coming, although over a period of 2 years. It
Mm.
wasn't one incident. It was just all of it coming together. And I said, I think I need to exit the company. Again, I owe everything to Caterpillar for who I am today, and I am better off for that. However, it was time for a change, and I left in bag and baggage. We moved out of our foreign assignment between from Singapore to India, and my wife was at CAT for a long time. We had a dual career at Caterpillar for a long time. She had quit a few months earlier, and we came back to the United States and chose Midwest because we thought we would find some meaningful opportunities in the Midwest in manufacturing.
Wow. Wow. So let's talk about this 2 years. And when you have a spouse, it's one thing if we're single, okay, I'm going to pack up and move. Just talk to us about the family dynamic. Was this something you partnered through the whole way? Or were you like, honey, I'm done? I'm just curious how that all went down.
Oh no, no. I think my wife Anju, she realized that I was going through it, and I don't think she ever explicitly told me anything, but I think implicitly she knew, and through our conversations, she knew what I was going through. She couldn't put a finger on it, and she just thought I'll never leave Caterpillar. I mean, that's how loyal I was to the company, and she just felt that no matter what she told me, it wouldn't get through to my head, dense head, so to speak, because I was so loyal and I was so to the company. However, she was very, no, I actually thought she was very supportive when I quit. She knew why I quit, and she knew I was ready for a change. And no, in fact, without her support, I don't think my career would have been where it was at CAT, because she was at CAT, but she moved along with me at that time. And so I think, in a dual career, unfortunately, sometimes it works out for both of them. And it worked out well for her, but she could have done a whole lot better if she had chosen to pursue her own dreams that way, which she didn't for the family's sake. And then I think I owe it to her for my career at CAT as well.
Yeah, and I think you can absolutely have it all in life. You cannot have it all at the same time. And optimizing, if you will, for the family system and what you feel is right. I think that that's a great message to send for listeners, right? Whatever could be right for someone else is not necessarily right for the Iyer family, and you folks make the call that you need to make. I'm curious about because you are very loyal. There's a bit of an inner struggle, and we all know that the company's the company. We can't go crazy for them, but I sense that you were very loyal. So what were some of the inner Ganesh conversations about, am I being disloyal? Should I give it more of a chance?
No, actually, when I quit, I was very ready. I don't think it was difficult at all, actually. I knew I was completely ready. In fact, the day I decided and left, it felt like something was off my shoulders. I
Nice.
mean, it felt the whole world got lifted off my shoulders. So I think, given that was the feeling, I thought I was just very ready. So no, it was not difficult. I did not go through uh, any kind of emotional issues that I was disloyal. I quite frankly think that public companies today, don't demand loyalty. That was the company. I would say that was the environment in public companies 2 or 3 decades ago,
Mm.
but not today. I think
Yeah.
it's more transactional in nature,
Yep.
more about a very fixed goal on making money for shareholders, and so therefore I don't think I had that problem at all,
Great.
because I
So,
felt that that wasn't the company I started with,
mm,
wasn't the company I was leaving.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, having the relief, I can sense the relief, like you're standing taller. So, talk to listeners, because I'm sure there's folks thinking, so how did you figure out what's next?
Yeah, I think all I knew was, again, this is not an indictment on Caterpillar or any other company, public company. They are in this world living the way they chose to live, as a company, as an entity, and an organization is made of people. So the people have chosen to live that way. I just chose to live. I just chose to say that I'm not going to live that way. I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm right. I'm just saying I'm not them. Um, at the end of the day, I feel that I wanted to make a difference in the lives of people. There were two things I wanted to do when I quit, and I put down on a piece of paper, what did I want to do? I wanted to make a difference in the lives of people. Okay, great. Any public company I go to would have the same concerns like Caterpillar would, right? I mean, it's really total shareholder return at the expense of pretty much everything else. So I decided that I want to be part of a privately owned company. I didn't know what company. I just knew that a privately owned company, which allows me to grow the business. I still like businesses. I still like making money. I still like profit. That's not the point. Uh, but I want to do that in an optimized way, not in a maximization of profit. I believe in optimization of profit, which is taking care of all my stakeholders, and I'll talk a little bit later about that. But as I thought through that, and I started looking for jobs, and I started talking to executive recruiters, I had a few options in front of me, and Etnyre came along. And Etnyre, I'd never heard of them, although they were only 2 hours away from Peoria, Illinois. They were a quiet company in the middle of Illinois, or rather in the northern part of Illinois, and 100 and now 126 years old. When I started, about 120 years old.
Uh,
Talked to the family, talked to the chair of the company, Bill Etnyre, the chair of the board rather, and he was very instrumental in getting me into the company, pretty much with his philosophy of taking care of people. Yes, you need to make good products, he said. Yes, you need to make good money, he said. However, the first thing is to take care of people. And when somebody says that, that that's what exact. I didn't know the company from Adam, quite frankly. I went to the I went to that place and I looked at the facility in Oregon, Illinois, and uh, I just took a chance. I just knew that if Bill's philosophy is how he wants us to run the company, I think it has to be good. And that's, I just took a chance, and fortunately, it's worked out well. And going back to, I don't know whether you want me to address this right now as part of our conversation, but going back to stakeholders, if you take care of your customers, suppliers, your members, we call our employees members, because employee we feel is a transactional term. So customers, suppliers, members, and communities where you live and in and around you, if you take care of that, shareholder value, so to speak, happens as a result. And we have proven that in the last 6 years. You talked about the raises that we have given to our shop floor members, but we have put in a lot of money in our facilities. We have put in a lot of money in human capital in terms of investments in training our people. We have driven an environment of empowerment. The point is, we have put in a lot of investments in for growth of the company, but also investments for growth of the people. Whether it's through compensation, whether it's through training, or any mechanism. And we have made sure that we take care of people all along. We have one of the best medical plans for our people. So we've really lived the life of optimizing profit, and yet we have grown more than 2 times in revenues over the last 6 years, about 2/3 from acquisitions, and we have significantly improved profits as well. So all of it can be done if you put your mind to it. But the goal cannot be making money. The goal is to taking care of people or improving lives. Our North Star is improving lives. Our goal is to improve lives, and we feel that money is only the means to improve lives, not the end goal itself.
Yeah, it just makes perfect sense. And we'll come to delve into that a bit more.
Right.
But one question for now. So you're not the only one who's been on the show. And we all know that if you really put people first over time, in 126 years is pretty darn good proof that the money will come. What might be one thing that would help public company leadership feel like they could do that? It's not as if people don't intellectually sort of get that, because it is the people who are doing the work. And having had, and again, we're not making anything good, bad, wrong, right. They're different. When you can really have people feeling better and feeling valued, they do better work. One thing perhaps in the corporate construct that people listening might be able to do to inch towards a little bit more people first?
I've always wondered about this. Uh, First of all, there are companies. I know Unilever, not the current CEO, but I know one of the CEOs of Unilever had a real people focused environment. Best Buy, I think his name is Hubert Jolly, who was the CEO of Best Buy for about 7 or I think less than 10 years. He did extremely well with the people focused culture. He wrote the book on the heart of business, and he did that. So there are examples in the public environment that people have done things differently, clearly. Um, I think the one example, if I think about it, is, we hear about layoffs. Why do people do significant layoffs? Because somehow we have figured out that either we don't need them or we can't afford them, and it'll impact our short-term profit, and therefore they must go. Um, how is that even right? Because when you do that, when you actually do that, you've just basically laid off a lot of people who are normally not the executives of the company, and then the executives get fat bonuses, quite frankly, at the end of it, because they were able to meet their numbers. So how can this be right? I have never reconciled this in my mind, and maybe I don't understand enough about this, but I can't, in my simple mind, reconcile these things. So you got to take care of people when it's very inconvenient. Anybody can take care of people when things go well. Things are going well, okay, yeah, you can pay them well. But can you take care of people when things are inconvenient? And I think you see massive layoffs over a period of time, and the companies are rewarded. I mean, at least the executives are rewarded, and the company's stock price goes up. So I do feel that if you ask me for one thing, I do feel that we need to revisit how we deal with difficult circumstances in a company in a more people oriented way.
I love it. I love it. And it harks back. And again, this was a small enterprise example. But when you have a small enterprise and 20 people and those 20 people are counting on you, they went through tough times. And because of the culture, everyone was kind of involved with this. And the people came back and they ran the numbers and they're like, look, we'll all take these kinds of pay cuts so that everybody stays on the boat. And the fact that people would even offer that. And of course, leadership was just relieved. And they said, we're going to make everyone whole. But they weathered the few year storm and they came back and made everyone whole. But that notion of we are really all in it together, I love what you put forth there, because I think there is a chance to just re-examine that and think of how we could do that better. Ganesh, we learn the most from our mistakes and our struggles. And I'm sure you have a laundry list. But so for listeners, just to humanize you, could you take us through some of the mistakes you made along the ways, things you would have done differently?
That's a very good question. I think I would just go back to the issue around people. Uh, uh, there are times uh, when when you make decisions around people, and in terms of whether they're performing, not performing, um, and um, and how you handle them in difficult days, their difficult days, is pretty important. It's just again, going back to my earlier comment about laying off people and so on and so forth. Uh, this culture of what have you done for me lately is a very toxic issue for in any company. That's just wrong, in my opinion, because you're thinking so short term that, okay, you didn't perform very well for the last year or two. However, you have this 15, 20 years of incredible performance prior to that, and you are never considered because it's the what have you done for me lately culture. So my mistakes have been more along those lines, where I have sometimes made suboptimal decisions in that regard. And it's always come back to hurt my conscience in a very deep way. And I don't do that anymore. I'm very careful when I make such decisions, taking into account all the previous things the person may have done or people may have done, and really hold them accountable in a very humane fashion, not just hold them accountable because they haven't done their job for the last couple of years. That's my biggest learning. It's normally around people. I don't think around any kind of business metric. Of course, you learn, how can you manage inventory turns better, or we can manage something else better. You continue to learn that. But it's around people that makes it the biggest. It makes the biggest impact on me. And so, yes, getting away from some of those suboptimal decisions I may have made um, would be the right thing to do. And I'm still learning, quite frankly. I'm still making those mistakes.
Yeah, I love how real you are and just sharing the journey of what you learn, put it into practice, let it go. You learned it. And this notion of the peace, because you show up with great peace. And when that wrestling, you didn't quite do the right thing and you did it anyways, inside the body keeps score. The body knows. And so I
Yes,
feel that, there's something about you that you move through space in a way where, with what this is what you think is right to do, and you do it to the best of your ability. And, if new information comes, we make a different call. I love that.
correct.
Can you take us to when you first came into Etnyre? Because I think the early days, whether someone is a CEO coming in or a new employee, I think it'd be instructive for listeners. How did you, what was your plan of attack to just kind of figure it all out, right? Because it's a drinking from the fire hose experience, and I'm curious what your first 100 days were like.
Yeah, and this is where I give a lot of credit to Caterpillar. Caterpillar prepared me for this job very, very well. So I would give a lot of credit to the experience I've had with Cat. It really prepared me for this job. Um, in terms of the first 100 days, yeah, I mean, it's extremely important to know the people in the company. Remember when I started, Molly, I think I mentioned this to you before, the company wasn't struggling. The company actually was doing well.
Yeah.
It had good products, it had good revenues, it made good money. So really, it wasn't a turnaround situation of any kind. In fact, it was the opposite. In fact, if anything, they were worried that I would mess it up. So, that was the concern. And so I'm sure that was a concern in their heads. But for me, it was important to any. In fact, that I learned at Caterpillar as I moved from one business to another business. So I had that experience of moving different businesses, different cultures, work cultures, society cultures, and all of that. So I had that experience before. So that really came in handy. So it was a different culture and it had a different set of ethos, so to speak. I always try to adapt to the culture that I go into. I never expect the culture to adapt to me, even though if I was the CEO, I started as CEO, I did not adapt a person on the shop floor or a person in the office to adapt to me. I had the job to adapt to them. And when you take that one step forward with people, they take actually two more steps forward. You just have to make them feel that you are adapting to them and not the other way around. So I never expected anybody to adapt to me, and I expected myself to adapt to others. And then that's what I do in every culture I've gone to, any job I've gone to, and I did the same thing here and established that credibility over a period of time. I knew I could run the business. That was not the problem. I think I also wanted to run the business with an expression of kindness. I'm actually working with a family who is incredibly kind, who is incredibly generous, and I thought I was kind till I met them, quite frankly. So I learned kindness from that family. I learned how to actually run businesses with kindness. So running a business wasn't the learning part. It's running the business with kindness was the learning part. And even in the first 100 days, I realized that. And so, yeah, I would say I established pretty good credibility in the first 100 days, but that was the focus: is how do I establish some credibility within the business, within the people, more importantly, from the people perspective.
That is so
Not sure if I
beautiful.
answered your
Uh,
question or not, but that's how I.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. I love that. Ganesh, when in running your business professionally, what is the hardest thing for you?
People. It's about people. The hardest, they're the best thing in the world, the people, and they're also the most difficult thing sometimes to deal with, right? I mean, it's just how to deal with people. I'm still learning as a human every day. I go to work. Uh, I I learn a lot. I learn. Oh my God, why did I just say that this time? I should have said it differently. And it's the interaction with people. It never gets old, and the mistakes keep happening, unfortunately. So I would say the most difficult thing is always being people, and it continues to. And that's what makes it so wonderful as a challenge, because I want to challenge myself as a human being, and I have challenged myself to work with kindness, to work with people, not necessarily for them to like me, but for them to know that I we can all work together in a meaningful, meaningful way, and and sometimes that can be difficult, and
Yeah.
then that's the challenge I like.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Well, this is the Say It Skillfully show. And so these perhaps share a conversation. What are some of the challenging conversations you have to go through?
I think the challenging conversations are most of the challenging conversations are what I expect from myself is what I expect from others.
Mm.
And that's where sometimes challenges surface. When I work extremely hard, I expect myself to be a certain way, do a certain way. I need to realize that everybody is not me, and I have to remind myself that people are different, their priorities are different, well, how they think about life, their worldview is different. So I'm very intense and passionate about work and moving things forward. So I always get frustrated when I don't see somebody else do that. But more often than not, it's not the fact that I expect them to, you know, be like me. No, that's certainly not the expectation. I actually want them to be themselves so that we can be a diverse crowd that can actually do things together. But it's I'm very frustrated when I know that the other person can do it, has the capacity to do it, and they just don't do it. And that's probably my biggest challenge, that how do I get the best out of my people when I know they can do it and they're not getting there? That normally leads to some difficult conversations, but with a good intent. The intent is to get the best out of the person. And normally those are the challenges I have, is when I know a person can do better and they're not showing that. Does that make sense?
It makes a ton of sense. So my question is, when you chat with those people, we can just role play this real time. It seems to me a question is just that level set of, I see this, and do you see that you have it in you, or do you want to perform at a greater level? Because those are two very different beasts.
Absolutely. Great point, Molly. I actually talked through exactly those 2 points. Okay, is this not happening because you don't want it? You don't believe that this is the case. First of all, do you believe that this is the case? Second, if you believe this is the case, you really don't want to do this at this level. Which one is it? Or, are you struggling because you don't have the exposure to some of these things? What's the reasoning? Yes. And no, actually, more often than not, I find myself talking to people who want it, and who want to do it, but they somehow, uh, they're not able to do it. But I don't actually put it on them. I put most of the burden on myself in that
Mhm.
process, and I say that, okay, maybe I'm not doing something, or I'm not. It's like the teacher student relationship, right? When a student doesn't do well, it's not necessarily always the student, it's sometimes the teacher as well. And it's that relationship here as well, that when I'm working with people, at least in my current job, I need to get the best out of them. And normally, that's first, I reflect inside first, that could I have done something better before I talk to that person.
Yeah. Huge learning point for all the people, especially the leaders listening out there. Okay. Think about, like, how am I contributing to this? To build on this, one of the key things for leaders, Ganesh, is that people are willing to come forth and say the bad news, the tough feedback, or whatever. What are some things that you've done to help continue to engender from folks that you want to hear it, even though they're like, oh, you may not want to hear it?
Oh no, I haven't done anything special about it, but I'll just tell you, my team doesn't have any issues giving me the bad news. In fact, I sometimes tell them, "Can you, when you have good news, can you call me and tell me some good news as well?" That's been my pet peeve with my team. Actually, my direct team that works with me, I tell them, you are very quick in giving me the bad news, which is, I appreciate that. I need to know that. But there are times that I'm also human. Just realize I'm human, and I can do with some positive reinforcement. You can call and give me some good news, but no, I think it normally is bad news. So when somebody calls me, I know, oh, that's the first thing that goes through my mind. But um, no, I don't do anything special to engender that. I think I create a sense of empowerment. I always tell people, you don't work for me. We have this thing in corporate, right? This person works for me. I never liked that term for some reason. I think we all work with each other. I have a role of a CEO. Somebody else has another role. It's just roles and responsibilities are different. So we work with each other. And I continue to tell my team and impress upon them that you do not work for me. You actually work with me. I just have a different role. You just have a different role. So therefore, that I feel has created I would like to believe that number of my actions and words like that have created a sense of empowerment so that they feel that they can call me and give me the difficult news.
Yeah, well, they clearly have. If you're getting so much forthright bad news, I can give a session on how to give appreciation so that they can come back to you more forthright with that too. So you feel the love. One just quick thing, just the personal balancing. Dual career. You've got great kids. Just some thoughts on what's been hard about that, but also what do you think has helped you folks to make it all work?
Um, I don't believe there is some such thing as a work-life balance. When people say work-life balance, I feel that they are saying work is good. I mean, life is good and work is bad, or they're two different things, or something like that, right? I don't believe that. I think work is a big integral part of life. It's a subset of life, and it's among the other things you do in life. And so you have to make it your own decisions about that. Everybody has a different decision. Everybody says they want to be able to attend every baseball game of their child, or they want to attend every concert of their child when somebody's in school. Um, and I think everybody has to prioritize that depending on how they feel about it. My wife and I felt that we want to spend time with our children, but remember, when I go to work, I'm not just going to work for myself. Of course, I'm going to work for myself. Of course, I'm going for a paycheck. But I'm also going because I believe I want to make a difference in the lives of people. So, yes, there is family, but then when I go to work, I'm also hoping that I'm making a difference in the lives of people. I hope I'm doing that. And so therefore I don't treat work. I think work is good. I'd go crazy without work. Work is extremely good. I'm honored and I feel blessed that I have good work to do. I really feel blessed. And work doesn't have to be a drudgery. And so therefore, um, my wife and I never felt that. We spent time with that. We spent time. We had good vacations with our children. We still continue to have good vacations with our children. They're now grown up. Um, so I don't think we did anything special to have work-life balance. We just knew what there were some important things to do as part of the family life, but we also were very passionate about the work we did and the difference that we could make in the world.
Yeah, I appreciate how you see the privilege of being able to work, of being able to serve, and that is such a
Well, I'm just
motivator.
thankful I have a job.
That's so fabulous. Okay, a few fun facts. A few hobbies of yours, Ganesh?
Hobbies, yeah. So I used to be an athlete. As I said in school, I used to run track, and I used to play ping pong for my state. Believe it or not, and I actually followed up and I played ping pong at not competitively, but used to play ping pong at Penn State, then at Bradley University in Peoria. So, and even during the COVID days, we took time to now, when nobody could meet each other, we had some neighborhood tournaments with masks and we played table tennis with ping pong with masks. So I was always, my father was a sports fanatic, so to speak, and I was very much into sports. So I love playing sometimes. I like playing racquetball, squash. So those were some of my hobbies, although I don't find much time to do that now. I read. That's something I do. That's a good hobby I have. I read. And I watch sports. I watch American football. I watch college football. Of course, Penn State, as you know, is big on that. So I do watch football.
That's amazing. We are going to have a board retreat where they book us a ping pong
A ping
table.
pong
That way you
table,
can give us
yes.
lessons. That'd be fabulous. Okay, introvert or extrovert?
I was going to ask you, what do you think? You know me.
Well, I define introvert as derives energy from within. Not that we don't like to be with people. I'm an introvert. I'm very sociable. But when I go out to a big event, I come back and I want to lay on the floor and look at the ceiling. And my sister, who's an extrovert, wants to go out and do it again. So for me, you have a
Yeah.
healthy
So
dose of
what's
both.
I think I do both. And as I have grown older, actually, I have tended more towards the introvert. Um, I get a lot of energy from people. Um, I'm very good in informal environments. I'm not so good in formal environments. And I've realized that about myself. And so no, I enjoy my uh, my self reflections. I've become deeply I'm deeply self reflective, if you will. So no, I don't feel like if I go to a big party that I want to go back there immediately the next day. No, I do not feel like that. I do want to have my time and space. So a little bit of both now.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that for sure. Okay, we're gonna bring it to a wrap. Proudest accomplishment to date.
It's very interesting. It's very simple. I was running a manufacturing plant in India as part of Caterpillar, and they were on a 6-day week. And there was a lot of conversations around, why do we have to work 6 days when most of the world, especially in the Caterpillar world, work 5 days a week and so on and so forth. And it took me a while to get that done, but they are on a 5-day week, and uh, they're on a 5-day week since in about a year after I went there, and there are people, Molly, believe it or not, that still thank me for that about 15 years later, and they don't talk about the we turned around the business pretty significantly. We made it. It was a loss-making business. We made it significantly profitable in 3 years. Nobody talks about that. All they said was what you did was a 5-day week versus a 6-day week. They got an additional day to do things that they had to do on their personal front, spend more time with the family. That's what I would say. That is my biggest accomplishment, period, because it made a genuine impact that people remember me for.
Yeah. Wow. Way to make a difference. That's crazy. Okay, rapid fire. In your next life, you're not in this profession. What profession would you be in?
I'd like to be in some kind of sport.
Excellent. Uh, any nicknames you can share with us?
My friends at Penn State came up with a nickname. They called me Ganu,
Ganu.
and it's stuck. My wife calls me that. Everybody who knows me from Penn State calls me that.
That's great. I love it. That's so fabulous.
Yeah,
Favorite food or cuisine?
Indian.
Indian.
I have stuck to my roots on that one. I love other cuisines, trust me, but because I'm vegetarian, I think it gets difficult in other cuisines sometimes. So I think I do like Italian would be my next cuisine, and by the way, Chinese would be three.
Yeah.
So Chinese, Indian, Chinese, and Italian.
Okay.
Those are.
We're glad we made it in there. Thank you, Ganu. uh, you, you have been very generous in talking about yourself, and I just want to acknowledge you again. I know that's not your primary; you don't normally do that. But as you've listened to yourself, Ganesh, what's your top takeaway?
Top takeaway from our conversation today, or top takeaway?
It can be both, but I was thinking, like, as you think about the journey that you've been on, like, if you think, like, wow,
Think forward and don't think backwards. My father told me that, and I still remember that. He always used to say, "Why are you worried about this? It's already done. Move on, move forward.
it's so fast.
Don't look back. Keep thinking forward." In fact, somebody told me the word feedback should be actually feed forward and not feedback. Take that forward with you. And so yeah, I would say that's the biggest takeaway in life for me is look ahead, don't look behind. Yes, think about the past to learn some lessons, but always look ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Marshall Goldsmith, my mentor, coined the feed forward, which is something that he's put out in the universe. Not that feedback is necessarily not serving, but you can also really look ahead with that feed forward notion. And then, last of all, what was it like for you to share your journey with all of us today?
Um, Cathartic, I guess. Always catharsis is as you talk about the things you've been through. But more importantly, I'm just honored that you even asked me to do this. Simple as that.
Thank you, my friend, for letting us get to know you a bit. I'm even more in awe of you and your courage and your drive to really live meaningfully and help other people live meaningfully. And one definition of leadership I had heard was, taking people to a place that without you, they wouldn't get, and to create meaningfulness in people's lives. And Ganesh, you're really doing that in spades. So I think you should feel great about doing that day in,
Thank
day
you
out.
so much, Molly. And you talk about my humility, right back at you, Molly. You are so humble. Thank you.
You are really helping us all be a lifelong learner, and you're showing us that you can have it all, right? And that journey of learning and letting go is a very virtuous one. So, listen, I appreciate you showing us how you have found your authentic voice, how it's life changing and benefiting your career and your relationships and every single thing you do. And I appreciate you and how you're being part of the solution. So we'll cross paths next month, but any little way I could help you, Anu, or anybody in your family, I'm here for you.
No, I appreciate that, and it's amazing what you do, Molly. That's I looked at your website after we connected, and I haven't gone through all the podcasts, but I'm really looking forward to listening to a number of them. I do have some long drives, and I think I can really do with listening to some of those podcasts. So
Well, I
really,
appreciate it.
and you are making a difference in the lives of people if you think about things that you put forth for learning. It's pretty amazing. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you for that. It gives me great joy and a privilege. It is a privilege to serve, and for everyone listening, I want you to be who you are and be able to speak up and say what needs to be said. Because Ganesh, you've just proven when you do that, how much better we can be working together.
Yes.
So we will cross paths soon, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ciao. Okay, folks, one final thought, and it's from Charlie Wardle. A bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking because its trust is not on the branch but on its own wings. And that is a wrap, folks. Thank you for joining us. Please be part of the solution and kindly share this show. Amplify Ganesh's voice. Reflect on your own top takeaways. And know, I am cheering for you to be who you are and skillfully say what needs to be said so that you and those around you have the shared reality that makes work and life much, much better.